Hey guys, got a PlayStation 2 controller here that's suffering from the problem that so many of them suffer from, where your analog's working. Some of the buttons work, the middle ones always stay working, but the rest of them you're getting no response. There's a video I came across a while ago where I cannot remember his name, but I'll find the video and I will link it in the description, where he describes how these controllers work and why it is that these ones work and these ones stop. In the video he talks about fixing buttons with conductive paint that has mixed results. But he also talks about replacing the film, the conductive film, which I'll show in a sec. Getting inside a PS2 controller is super easy. You take screws, undo them, get you to here where you have one screw. And this is the film. Now at the end of that guy's video he talks about how the replacement films are unreliable, that some of them don't work, and I'm going to show you here why I think that is. These are both two brand new films which I got them from AliExpress. There's loads of different sellers. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check it out. They're dirt cheap, it's not less than a quid. If you are checking it out, bear in mind there are different types of PlayStation controller. This is another style one where, as you'll see, this pad I have here is soldered. This one here is just actually held on with there's like a foamy piece that holds it down. If you have that controller, it might be the easier one to try if you don't like soldering. This one, as you can see, is soldered in. So if you are checking out and you're thinking about ordering one of these films, be sure you order the right one. Since I started making this video, I came across another guy. It's like YouTube started suggesting me these videos after I started making this one. But he was saying when it comes to these films, if you can see the way this has the silvery gold bit each side. And this one, which I said earlier was unworking, you can see this one doesn't have it both sides. It does on some of them, but not all of them. And he rightly points out that when you see ones like that, they're not going to work. So if you're picking them up, you need to try and pick up the ones where they have silver both sides of each pad. I will link him down in the description. A little tricky for me to do this around the camera. I think my solder station is slightly too far away. Sorry guys, I couldn't get this off around the camera, it just got a bit too awkward. I need to get myself a boom which I can put out of my way when I'm doing these. Anyway, I should have used heat doing this, I think anyway, it would have been probably easier. But it's off now anyway. See, it's actually like part of the connector. Earlier I said about these pins having 18 and 19. It seems they actually use the same conductive film, whether they're 18 or 19, and the only difference being there's actually room for it to move around in the connector for the 19, and there isn't in the 18. So it seems that the 19 pin is not actually used. So all you have to do is leave this pin, use an 18 connector, and you just leave this pin, the last pin here, unconnected, and it'll be fine. It also saves having to have two different types of connector lying around. So what I'm going to do now is solder this down. This same thing, this may be an issue doing it around the camera. Yeah, sorry guys, I wasn't able to do that around the camera. I really will have to get myself a boom. What I did was just down the two ends first, just to pin it down, and then went across it. If after you're done you're worried about whether or not you've done it right, check it with a, like, by seeing the pins move. Or another good way is actually to zoom in on your smartphone, because I mean the cameras are so good now, they give you a great picture. Before you go sticking this in, you have to trim these. As you can see, they don't quite fit. Now I don't know, is that just because they're poorly made in China, or is it there's so many variations of the PS2 controller, maybe they just took their base as like the wrong one or a different one. But just a little trim, just shouldn't have to go too crazy. You obviously want to make sure you don't nick or damage any traces. On the plus side, if you do damage any traces, if you've ordered a couple of these, you now have a socket that you can slide in and out of. So it's not like before where there's two little holes at each end which hold the conductive film in place. Just don't forget to put them in, it might slip around. You can see why we had to trim this down earlier, so that it'll fit in the little groove. Wire back in. Well, that was trickier than it should be, but it's in now. You're putting the controller back together. Your fatter end of these goes to the back of the controller. This kind of has a little cap, you'll feel sits over it. I'm putting one of these back together, it's easier to do it without the shoulder buttons, the R buttons in place. I'm not sure why, but getting this controller back together was an absolute nightmare. I had to do it on camera. I think I had the rumble motor sitting slightly wrong, but I mean, if it feels wrong, if the buttons feel wrong, it's wrong, and you know that you need to try and move around trying to get the flux off the board from where we soldered it earlier. When putting these back together, I don't know if I said it already, it's best to leave the shoulder buttons off. You can just shove them through. Oh. This controller really didn't want to go back together. Okay. Also, when you're putting these back together, make sure your strain relief is sitting right. It goes down and then goes over the one here, down and back up, because that's can sometimes make it feel like it's not sitting right either. I'm not going to stick all the screws back in because I want to just test it to make sure that the swapper after doing the conductive film actually worked, and it now works. Plus, when you're putting them back together anyway, it is no harm to leave these two out until you put the buttons back in, just to leave a little bit of flexibility in the shell. These will just pop. So you just so you've that little bit of flexibility left in case there's no harm for popping them back in. Back here at controller properties on the laptop, as you can see now, all the buttons are working. There's the thumbsticks, left thumbstick, right, directional buttons, 4 shoulder buttons. Great. So not so bad there. The key of this seems to be when you're getting the conductive films to make sure you're starting with a good one. Check that it has the little gold bit on both sides, like I said. The other thing it seems to be, which I've learned doing this, is if you have a 19 pin, the 18 pin works fine. It's just awkward just keeping them around for no reason. Just remember to keep it a step over away from that last pin. That's great, guys. Thanks for watching.